Does everybody know what a paradox is?
Yes.
Paradox is one of those situations where if the answer is true, then it can't be true. And every once in a while, we face what seems to be a paradox. There are a lot of things we call a paradox, and it turns out they're not a paradox at all. They are simply a problem, because there is a solution to it. So the talk today is called Render Unto Caesar, and it comes from the passage in the New Testament where Jesus said, "Render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, and render unto God that which is God's." Which seems to make sense. But then there's another part where Jesus says, "Judge not, lest you be judged." And if you're trying to decide what's Caesar's and what's God's, isn't that judgment? And then about the judgment part, he said, "Judge with right judgment." Well, now we have no idea what he's talking about. But the insight that we're looking for is render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, and render unto God that which is God's. And what the meaning that we've taken from that is that there are ways that we live in the world, there are ways that we operate, there are things that we have to do to exist in our human form, and we have to do those. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to feed and nourish our bodies. We have to exercise. We have to, in the case of rendering unto Caesar, pay our taxes. Yes, I started working a full-time job last year, and it turns out that I still have a little rendering left to do. And I could look at that and complain and say, oh, it's awful because I have to pay taxes, or I owe taxes which I didn't pay before. Or I can look at it and say, wow, look at this bounty of income that I have to pay taxes on. My brother, who works in the finance industry, says that one of his goals is to have to pay $10 million a year in taxes, because he knows the secret there is that he gets to keep 10 or however many millions of dollars for himself. So it's about how we look at that situation. It's not that there's something that's going to be taken away from us. So we render unto Caesar that which is Caesar. So we live in the world doing the things that we need to do in the world, and then we render unto God that which is God's. All through history, different people, different spiritual practices, different teachers have said the same thing in different ways about how we can tell what's Caesar's and what's God's. There's a bit of scripture that was written that addressed this a little bit. It was written in 1984. It's called the ISO-OSI 7-layer abstraction model. And Breen's saying, I don't think I was at work today. And it talks about how networks work. OSI is the Open Systems Interconnect. And the way that it works is at the top level, it's the computers that we're working on. And then a level down, it's how the computer programs work. And a level down, it's how the machines work. And a level down, it's how they connect into the network. And a level down, it's how the network wires and plumbing and stuff connect to each other. And the magic part of this particular piece of scripture, no, it's not scripture. It was approved by the International Standards Organization, but it's still not scripture, is that it's an abstraction model. In order to use the system and to work with the system, we only need to know how to engage with one level of it. And in order to build something on it, we need to understand something about the level that's below it. There's still levels below that we don't need to know anything about. So everybody here has used the internet. Okay, you turn on your browser, you click on some stuff, things show up. There's a whole lot going on in the background. If you've never seen it, then trust me, there's a lot going on in the background as you're connecting into a website and making that experience happen for you. And you, as a user, do not need to know anything about how it works. You turn it on and you click and you read. And it's that easy. And for somebody who's developing websites, they need to know how to develop the website, but they don't need to know how the processors work. Really simple. Everybody here has listened to the radio before, right? You turn on the radio, you have a couple of choices. You have the on-off control, you have the volume, you have the station selector. Beyond that, there's some nuanced pieces. And everybody can engage with the radio at that level. Well, I spent a fair amount of time in the radio business. I was a guy on the other side of the microphone. So I knew how to do that stuff. I was hoping you weren't going to use the on-off switch and turn the volume down too much on me, but that was a personal thing. But I also knew how to turn the microphone on, how to adjust the volume, and how to sequence the program so that a 4-hour show would end in 4 hours. And as somebody who's listening to the radio, you don't need to know how that works. As somebody who's doing a radio show, I didn't need to know how the console was connected to the patch bay, was connected to the transmitter. I did some engineering stuff, so I did know that, but I didn't need to in order to be on the radio. And when I'm connecting the studio together, I didn't need to know how to make a transmitter. And for the people who made a transmitter, they didn't need to know how to make a transistor. And the people who are making the semiconductors and the actual elements that are getting put together into these systems don't need to know how you go out and mine the germanium or the silicon so that you can make those pieces. I don't need to know. The same thing applies in our spiritual life. When we're engaging with the world, when we want to turn the radio on and get that experience of music, all we need to do is engage with that there. And we can make the music happen. And when we want to have something more happen with the music, we can go a level deeper. We can turn to either doing our own radio show or making our own music or whatever that happens to be, and let all the rest of that foundation continue to support the activity. Render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. That's the level where we're working right here. And render unto God that which is God. That faith, that belief, that knowledge that all of those pieces are going to fit together. And it's really easy, in a very heady sort of way. Yes, this has been a heady beginning of the talk. What we get to do is drop out of our head and into our heart. That's where faith comes in. Is this going to work? I don't know how it's going to work. I don't have all the answers. I can't explain all of the little pieces that are happening there, but I have faith that it's going to work. I have faith that when I go to google.com, I'm going to get the Google page and I'm going to be able to search for stuff. How does it work? I've heard some stories. I couldn't repeat it. I couldn't do it, but I can work it. And I have faith that it is going to work. And in those situations where I don't think it's going to work, I can get myself so wrapped up in the thought that this isn't going to work for me that I don't even try and click on it. And then what happens? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And it's not working because it's not working. It's not working because I'm not giving it a chance to work. I'm not allowing my faith to say, yes, this is possible for me. Albert Einstein said that we can't solve a problem at the same level of energy where we created the problem. He's talking about the same thing. If we're looking at something and seeing a situation, seeing a challenge, seeing an issue, seeing a difficulty, we can attack that problem at the level of the problem. We can try and fix it where the problem is. But if it's a serious, significant, large-scope problem, the way to do that is to take ourselves to a higher level of energy, to take ourselves out of the level of the problem into that level of the solution. How am I going to be that agent of change that brings something more, something powerful into the experience so that the experience can change? Can we do that? Yes. I'm going to go with yes, we can do that. Because we've seen that happen over and over and over again. That's where evolution is happening. That's where growth is happening. Everything that's happening now didn't always happen forever and ever in history. One of my favorite examples is the 4-minute mile. It was impossible to run a 4-minute mile until Roger Bannister did. And right after that, all sorts of people started running a 4-minute mile. Is it because it suddenly became possible? Well, no, actually, the week before Roger Bannister did it, it was already possible. But with that example, people's faith was activated, and it became much more accessible. So I don't know what the problems are that are particularly facing you in your life today. You can tell the ones that are ingrained in your belief system because they've been coming up for a while, perhaps over and over again. What happens is the same sort of situations will continue to come along, and as long as we're engaging with them at that same level of energy, we're going to continue to get the same results. And we don't have to. We don't have to get the same results, and we don't have to always engage with them at the same level. There is always that opportunity to take a different perspective, to look at it from a different way, to bring ourselves to the situation differently. Emma Curtis Hopkins, who's a teacher of teachers, one of Ernest Holmes' teachers, called her ministry the ministry of the high watch. And her recommendation all the time was to take the high watch, to look at something from the highest possible perspective that we can. Because when we're looking at the situation from that God perspective, from that infinite open perspective, and we're connecting that ourselves with that power that can create all of this, then suddenly whatever it is that I'm dealing with, even if it feels really big to me, isn't so big in comparison. So, how many people here consider yourself to be a musician? Show of hands. Okay, we've got 2, 3. We're going to do a little experiment. John's going to lead this for us because I do not consider myself to be a musician. When the opportunity to do music came along, I became a recording engineer. So I'm really good with other people's music. So we're going to do a little music, and this is our opportunity to let go of the fact that we may or may not think of ourselves as musicians. We may or may not think of ourselves as a band or an ensemble, but to just open to the possibility that with the right sort of guidance, we can create some kind of music. So John, whatever it is that you got in mind.
All right. No, I think this should
Yes, this is what's surrounding
let's see. Okay. I'm just gonna disperse these. I'm not gonna ask you if you want one or not. Let's see. I think everybody should have one, right? There's enough for everybody.
Yeah.
All right. So take
God knows how this is going to work.
There's some other stuff in here that could be musical instruments, like this battery. I'm not sure how to. Great. So if you want one, take one, and then pass the basket, and everybody can have one. And then we're going to do something like this. I'm going to use the guitar. Now, let's see. If raise your hand if you. I need at least 4 singers. Now, so okay. Okay, can you sing, Sean?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
What do you want to do?
Just right from where you are. Dave, you want to sing? All right, Dave's gonna sing. You're gonna sing.
Annie's going to sing.
And you're gonna sing.
I'm
All right.
gonna sing.
So if you're feeling brave enough to, or confident enough to keep time with the shaker and sing at the same time, then by all means, if you volunteer to sing, try that. But if you volunteer to sing, you can just focus on the singing. So we'll try this. Okay, so singers first. Sounds like Christmas in here, doesn't it?
Jingle bells.
Okay, singers, we're gonna go like this. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So men, who are singers, can you hit those notes? It's not that high. So, okay, who's doing that? Was that you? He's going way down. He's going an octave lower. Boom, ba-da-doo. Put him down the low end. All right. All right, singers, one more time. Do you have it? Okay, nice. So remember that. Actually, can you keep doing that, but just a little bit softer? Actually, can you go a little, like almost a whisper? Good. All right, keep going. Okay, here where I'm snapping. Okay, that's a shaker. All the shakers, all the egg shakers. Just real simple. Real simple. Okay. I just heard a... Oh, that's cool. You can do it. You can do it on that one. Okay, now everybody else, except for Breen. So, jingle bells. Keep going. Okay, jingle bells. Go on the offbeat. Shake, shake, bop, shake, jingle, shake, jingle, shake, jingle, shake, jingle, shake, jingle, shake, jingle, shake, jingle. Okay, Brian, do whatever you want. Alright, great. Great. Here we go. Okay, nice. I think it's about as far as we're gonna get. That was beautiful.
Close your hands. If
We had more
someone,
time.
if someone had asked you this morning if you could do that, there would have been a lot of pushback. No, I'm not going to do that. I can't do that. I'm not going to sing in church. I can't do that. I'm not a performer. I'm not this. I'm not that. I'm not whatever. And there is always the opportunity to let go of the attachment that we have to render it to Caesar and turn it over to God. And that's where the opportunity for something bigger is showing up in our lives. Bless you. It happens everywhere. It happens at work. It happens in your relationships. It happens in taking care of your body. It happens when you're making dinner. We can do things the way we've always done them because that's the way we've always done them. Or we can open ourselves up to a new possibility. Don't have to know how. Don't have to know how. Simply need an idea that I'm going to allow it to be a little bigger, allow it to go a little deeper, allow myself to be supported a little bit more thoroughly, and maybe dig just a little bit into that first layer that's beyond what it is that I know. And that's when the blessings open up. That's when the heavens release whatever it is, whatever that good is that we are calling for. We don't need to know how. We simply need to know what. So come up with an idea of something subtle, something little, some trifle that you'd like to have in your life. Or something astounding, something magnificent, something wonderful, some way that you want to feel that you haven't felt in a long time, that you've been yearning for a long time, some way that you want to share the gifts that you have within you. Get connected to what it is that you want to be experiencing, what it is that you want to be feeling, what it is that you want to be sharing. And then let go of the details and allow the good to fill you up. Because you deserve it. Sing your song. You're a blessing. So blessed.